Hi, well, thanks so much for having me on your program, guys. Look, I mean, it really depends on the form that Israel's counterstrike, its retaliatory strike for Iran's ballistic missile assault on Israel 2 weeks ago takes. If it's airstrikes, then obviously we need to have deconfliction with U.S. forces operating in the region over the overflight zone in Iraq and Syria, et cetera. So, there are aspects of this that would have to be coordinated very closely with the United States in the event that we're talking about an airstrike. If it's a different kind of strike, then we may not need that kind of deconfliction device, and we may not have to give all of the information in that sort of way to anybody. I mean, we don't know exactly the form of things to come. What we know is that Israel does not intend this to be the sort of, nod, nod, wink, wink kind of thing that happened after Iran attacked Israel for the first time with missiles and with drones in April, where under tremendous pressure from the Biden administration, Israel massively scaled back its intended retaliation to simply a demonstration of capabilities by taking out one of the anti-aircraft batteries that Iran has situated near its nuclear sites to show that Israel is capable of removing protective shields around those sites. So I don't know. What I do know is that for whatever reason, the Biden administration, who keeps saying that it wants to place Iran's nuclear program in a box, is working overtime to put Israel into a box. They're saying it's Israel that can't retaliate. And in fact, they are shielding Iran's nuclear installations and obviously its oil platforms as well from Israel, which is really striking that it is Israel that the United States is restraining, not Iran. Iran is not at all interested in American warnings. I mean, they said, don't
Right.
attack Israel, and Iran directly attacked Israel already twice with massive missile strikes. And obviously, they're carrying out their proxy war with six other fronts controlled by them
Sure.
in Lebanon and in Gaza are the most active, but the Houthis as well, and
Yeah,
then
it
in
continues
Iraq and in
on.
Syria.
Absolutely. We're just short on
Yeah.
time. So let me dive into this report by Washington Post. And it discusses what we're talking about. The retaliatory action would be calibrated to avoid the perception of political interference in the U.S. elections, the official familiar with the matter said, signaling Netanyahu's understanding that the scope of the Israeli strike has the potential to reshape the presidential race. And this is timely, Caroline, because we've learned that the Arab American PAC announced that it will not be backing any candidate, either Harris or Trump, this election cycle here. So the impact of what's happening overseas in the Middle East appears to be having an impact on potentially American voters here stateside. Is that something Netanyahu is keeping in mind?
I think what he's keeping in mind that we're facing tremendous pressure and hostility from the Biden administration and have been since the opening days of the war. It was just reported in the Israeli military that Biden threatened Israel with a full arms embargo in his conversation with Netanyahu last week if we don't continue to sustain the Hamas regime in northern Gaza with the so-called humanitarian aid, which is what has enabled Hamas to retain its grip on power throughout Gaza. So, this is, again, we're looking towards a lame duck period after the election, regardless of who wins, where you're going to have totally unrestrained hostility against Israel. If the concern right now is the Jewish vote or the Arab vote or anything in between, such concerns will no longer exist come November 6th. So that's something that Israel is looking at very closely. Obviously, if the Arab American lobby announced that they're not going to be endorsing Kamala Harris, they did that before any Israeli retaliatory strike, which just shows that what Israel is doing has absolutely no impact whatsoever on domestic politics.
Yeah, that endorsement again non-endorsement hasn't happened. They've endorsed a candidate for decades and decades, typically, obviously, a Democrat, and they came out and said that they will not endorse Kamala Harris nor Trump as well. Caroline Glick, thank you, Caroline.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
New polling suggesting former President